So from our gospel today, Jesus, he brings up friendship. And as usual, on the subject, he's pretty radical. And to understand that radical nature of Jesus on friendship, it's first important for us to understand that it is our biological nature to build relationships with people out of self-interest. In other words, most naturally, all of us, we seek relationships for two distinct reasons: for social gain and for material gain, right? Material gain, finances, shelter, etc., right? Those material securities. In fact, sociology even gives vocabulary for this kind of relationship forming and seeking. And now, I know it's early in the morning, but I'm going to teach you two new German sociological terms. Does that sound fun or what? All right? Two German sociological terms: Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. We enter into relationships to secure ourselves socially, Gemeinschaft, or to secure ourselves materially, Gesellschaft. Remember, our instincts are for survival. So when the question is asked, why do these human beings seek friends? Sociology tells us that it's usually about securing ourselves socially. Like, think of the school bus. Like being friends with the cool kid or the really tough kid on the school bus. Gemeinschaft, social protection. Or securing ourselves materially, like being friends with the kid on the bus who always has the best snacks, right? Gesellschaft. And now, I don't know how many of you know this, but you all have a sociologist, a legitimate sociologist in your church family, Gary Gorham. And I don't think he wants that citation, but I have to honor my sources, and I want you to know that I have consulted with Gary on those terms, so you're learning the accurate definitions of those two German terms, if you're worried about that. So thanks, Gary. So more on Gemeinschaft, where we build relationships for social gain. Now, I distinctly remember in high school when I entered high school, seeking to shed or gain friendships for one basic reason: protecting my social status. As a freshman, it was time for me to shed my perceived dorky friends, and time for my cooler friends to get rid of me, and time to network so that I could have some sort of security as I navigate this jungle of high school. Some sort of security on the social ladder, that is, find people that'll help me climb it, and at least find people who will help me from falling, right? That even meant developing friendships with people I didn't even like. And I think each of us is guilty of that at some point in life. There are people who are jerks. But if we're cool with them, we're safe. Gemeinschaft. Now more on Gesellschaft, where we build relationships for material gain. There's a book called God is Back by two economists who in their book, they analyze religion from an economic perspective. And one finding and conclusion in the book is that joining a place of worship is one of the best ways a business person can create a client base. In other words, to create relationships that will result in material financial gain. It's good business for an insurance agent or real estate agent to be a part of the local congregation. It's business savvy for a contractor or a store owner to be a part of the local worshiping community. Developing connections at a church can increase word-of-mouth referral and be an intimate form of advertising. In fact, I had a roommate who told me flat out that he began going to Catholic Mass again in order to build his network and to get his advertising into their newsletter. And to be sure, none of this is a bad thing. It's natural, according to sociology. It's natural and it's helpful for the community. We all need each other. So for my friend, realty is his vocation. And people need realtors. The point I'm making is we do actually seek relationships for material gain, financial gain. And this is all to say, it is our well-documented human nature to enter into relationships for our own benefit and for our own protection. And of course, and as usual, here Jesus is calling us beyond our nature. In today's gospel, Jesus calls us to friendships where it's not merely about our own surviving and thriving. Here's how he puts it. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. In fact, no one has greater love than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends. This is the only time where Jesus calls the disciples his friends. And he does so in the context of discussing his own sacrifice for them. So this means for Jesus, friendship is living for someone, not just from someone. As disciples, then, you and me, we're called beyond our nature to view our connection to people not only in terms of social and material benefit, but to view our connections in terms of loving them and how to love them best, for the sake of living for other people. And for a writer named Parker Palmer, this definition of friendship by Jesus, this means our fundamental identity question that we should be asking as Christians is not merely, who am I, but whose am I? Because we don't merely belong to ourselves, according to Jesus. We belong to one another. And not only is that definition of friendship beyond Gemeinschaft, Gesellschaft, but this definition that Jesus is rolling out about friendship is also beyond mere sentimental relationships. Jesus here, to his disciples, in these final hours for him, he's not being sappy. He may be being tender, but he's not being sentimental. This is a weighty definition of friendship by Jesus. As one scholar affirms, there can be no simple sentimentality in a life that is called to be laid down for one's friends. In other words, Jesus' commandment goes beyond friends sending birthday texts, beyond friendships that just make fun memories, beyond bachelor and slumber parties. Those are all wonderful and beautiful. But John 15 is not a Hallmark card about friendships. It is Jesus calling us to something even deeper for one another. Jesus is defining friendship as duty, as dedicated commitment to one another, as sacrificial, as more than networking and sentiment. For Jesus, friendship is action. Or to quote 1 John, it is loving not merely in word or speech, but loving in truth and action. My friends, this means we are called to friendships that when our friend is down and out and it's ugly, we still show up. We are called to friendships that when it means taking a social risk to continue as a friend, or even a financial risk to be there for a friend, we still show up. We are called to friendships that although it may be draining to be a listening ear, that it may be uncomfortable to visit the hospital, that it may be inconvenient to go to the funeral, we still show up. We are called to friendships where we willingly enter into each other's suffering. That's what Jesus is talking about. And this type of friendship, according to one scholar, is an all too scarce reality in our world. And why do you think it's scarce? It's scarce because it involves this type of thinking, as one theologian puts it. What Jesus is asking us to do is to all understand that and say, I am not the most important thing in my life. It is scarce because being a good friend is risky. As Dietrich Bonhoeffer would say, it's costly. And he would know, since he literally lost his life at the hands of Nazis for his friends. Christian friendship is costly. And make no mistake, it is also one of the most hopeful and beautiful things in human existence. As Jesus attests, I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be made complete. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And the result is joy, according to Jesus. And finally, my friends, I know that this call to radical friendship, I know that it sounds daunting, and it is. And I know none of us are perfect friends. And we never will be. But the good news is that Jesus gave us and gives us his perfect friendship. Because he came here, in his words, not to be served, but to serve. He came here not for himself, but for us. The ultimate friend who gave his whole life. And in response, we are called to do our best to mirror that friendship with one another. And as we stumble and fall, to be the friends we're called to be. Daily remember the perfect friendship Jesus already has given us. Amen.